Hey guys, very bad of me. I'm drinking Pepsi Max again. And it's really late. It's like after midnight here, so I'm not very good, am I, with my diets? But anyway, in a naughty mood, shall we say? And I left this in the freezer for a long time, so I'm going to do an experiment here to see if it's. I have left it out for a fair amount of time after that, so I wonder if it's going to spill everywhere. So I suppose we'll have to see. Moment of truth, it didn't spill everywhere, but I imagine if I put the lid back on, sometimes it seems it does spill out afterwards. Anyway, sorry, just thought I'd do a little science experiment there. But anyway, I hope you're well wherever you are and enjoy this video. I hope people out there will enjoy this video. I do get nervous. I don't know if you can tell when I'm nervous. Like last video, I got really nervous and thought I don't think people out there will like this. But if you can post in the comments any thoughts you think of any of my ideas, what you think of football, soccer for any Americans or Australians out there, as I mentioned in my other videos, and Calcio in Italian, or what you think of Juventus specifically or Italian football in general, and also Celtic, as I'm a Celtic fan as well, and whether you think Italian football teams and Celtic should have some sort of partnership, or any other thoughts you might have, and if you offer constructive criticism or points of view. I hope to take on board any points you make, and also if you do enjoy my content, I'd really love to hear from you as well, because that would help to encourage me. And yeah, if you share the video and like it and help my channel to grow, so you help me and others as well, because hopefully help me to help myself and others. I really appreciate that as well. Anyway, I'm going to crack on with part 4. I also had a very late shower, so I do fear that I'm not going to be able to sleep very easily tonight, and then because showers normally refresh you and sort of wake you up, I suppose. And the other thing is, I fear that I'm going to struggle to get up in the morning again, as I normally do. But and especially with my depressions. But I'm going to try and stay positive anyway for this video, and as much as I can. So again, I'd love to. Sorry, the fly around. I'd love to read your points of view. Again, having a fizzy drink probably doesn't help with flies and stuff like that as well. Anyway, here we go. So number 31. Again, as I often say. Once again, as I often say, I would love for as many potential investors, sponsors. Sorry, my back's really sore at the moment. Investors, sponsors. We're going to sit comfortably. But investors, sponsors, and that kind of thing. As many individuals, companies, and whatnot to invest in Juventus, as well as other town teams, and also Celtic. But yeah, I look for as many companies and organisations and whatnot to invest in and sponsor, and just basically put money and funding into money/funding, or whatever you want to call it, into Juventus. Let's say in this case, obviously sticking to Juventus, but also town teams generally and Celtic, and that kind of thing. I'll drink to that, as they say. So yeah, I'd love to see that investment and that kind of thing, as much as possible from all possible companies. Number 32, especially going on my alliterations, especially companies that begin with J, but just as many companies as possible generally. Like I was thinking, as I mentioned in my last video, J.V.C, which I think is an electrical company. I don't know a huge amount about it, but I'd love for them to invest in Juventus. Another pattern I have, as well as alliterations, and quite a few other patterns you might be able to tell from my videos and from my typing. Some of them are bad habits, as I call them, but yeah, putting things in speech marks, for instance, that probably shouldn't be, but and semicolons and stuff like that. But another pattern I have is, like, if I write a sentence, a word that reminds me of the number 2, I put second, or try to put second. Something that reminds me of 1, I try and put first. Something that reminds me of 2, I put second, and 3, third, and 4, fourth, and that kind of thing. So J.V.C, I imagine being an acronym for something. I would do it to be like J.V.C for Juventus and things like that, or say whatever company to invest in Juventus. Like, say if it was, I can't really think of any specific company that begins with J other than J.V.C, but let's say Jews to invest in Juventus or something like that. So yeah, like that's like a pattern. So I hope that made sense. But yeah, so I know it's another quirky pattern I have, like sovereign wealth funds for Juventus, for instance, or whatever. So yeah, like Japan to invest in Juventus if they have their own sovereign wealth fund. I'd love for as many companies as possible countries as possible to have their own sovereign wealth fund, like Abu Dhabi does with the City Group, and for all possible countries, as well as places and companies and even individuals and businesses and whatnot, to invest into Italian teams as well as Celtic, And yeah, so a lot of time would be like going on alliterations or patterns like I often talk about, like Apple to invest in AC Milan, for instance, and that kind of thing. Number 33, if I could set up one day the Dyslexic Billionaires Unite Company, the ADHD Billionaires Unite Company, and even the Autistic Billionaires Unite Company, and maybe even the Dyspraxic Billionaires Unite Company, if there are any dyspraxics who are billionaires. Not many people know what dyspraxia is, but it's a learning disability which is a bit like dyslexia, but more for coordination, whereas dyslexia is for reading and writing. But yeah, if I could set up those companies and even a NEWventus Billionaires United network generally, I would love for them to invest into and to, of course, sponsor Italian teams such as Juventus or others like SPAL or Spezia like special needs, but turning it on its head, like to a positive and that sort of thing. A controversial thing I was thinking is like, the term spag is normally seen as a really negative term. Sorry for anyone who's offended by that term, but yeah, just using it in like quotation marks. But yeah, people call people like disabled people spag, and it's quite an offensive term. Again, hence I'm putting in speech marks. But yeah, I thought, what if they, in terms of SPAL, an idea I had using my dyslexic imagination was if it was turned into a positive, like so SPAL, the football team in Italy, did something positive with disabled people, and they used the word spag in a positive way, or turned it into a positive, perhaps. Yeah, I know I have a quirky mind, but yeah. Number 34, again, as many companies as possible to invest in Juventus and again other Italian teams and Celtic. I would love for, like, as I say, sovereign wealth funds, and yeah, Juventus to have as many investors as possible. Number 35, I would love for that to equal, as I often say, like success on the pitch. Sorry if I repeat myself a lot, I know, but yeah, I think that's the most important thing to remember, that to bring it back to in many ways. I suppose equally important would be the charitable work, but in terms of the football thing, it would be to win trophies. In my opinion, I'd love to see Juventus. As a fan of Italian football generally, I would love to see Italian teams like Juventus winning trophies in Europe and internationally as much as possible. Number 36, I hope this will represent Italian football in a positive way. And as I say, I hope that Juventus will have as many fans as possible around the world, supporters clubs, academies, and that sort of thing all across the world. If an investor invests, like say if Japan did invest in Juventus, maybe they could have supporters clubs and academies that the Japanese government helps. If they had their own sovereign wealth fund, as saying it invest in Juventus, going on alliteration, they could have their own academies and that sort of thing, train people in football in Japan, in that case, say for instance. And yeah, although I would Japan also has like the TICAD, T.I.C.A.D, which is an acronym. I think it's for Tokyo International Committee of African Development or something like that. And they invest in Africa. And I would love for them to work with Torino. So, but Japan generally, I think it'd be cool if their country had an investment portfolio like sovereign wealth fund, as I say, just like the Citigroup does, and they could learn from the Citigroup mistakes to avoid, but also things that they do well, so they can get those trophies, hopefully in Europe and internationally as well, most importantly. And that, yeah, that's what I'd love to see as much as possible. And Italian teams like Juventus having like the Mediterranean Cup, the Latin Cup, Republic Cups, tricolour cups, perhaps, and things like that as well. I think that would be pretty cool if they had like Latin cups where they invited Latin teams to come to Turin and play tournaments. I know they already have like a miniature World Cup for Juventus fans around the world, but I think it'd be cool if they had like if Italian teams generally had like the Latin Cup, or Latin teams generally had like Latin countries had their own like Latin Cup. Or basically, I'd love to invent like the Mediterranean Cup, Latin Cup, and things like that, Republic Cup, Tricolour Cup, and things like that for teams from those backgrounds, respectively. Number 37, again, I hope that they will have a partnership with Celtic and expand upon that partnership as much as possible. Celtic will help Juventus to practice as much as possible and learn from them, and help to teach them what they know as well, and vice versa, of course. Number 38, again, I hope they will encourage people to learn about diversity and encourage and support diversity as a club, and hopefully any success they have will show other teams what diversity can do in a positive way, like how diversity can be a positive thing. Number 39, again, I'd love for as many neurodiverse people as possible, not just billionaires maybe, but even neurodiverse people generally, to invest in Italian teams like Juventus and also Celtic. And number 40, again, I'd love to read your comments as ever. And if you think of any ideas, like maybe even if you've heard an idea I have and you're a Juventus fan and you're interested in that idea, again, if you post it in the comments, it would be great to read those sorts of things. Or if there are ideas you disagree with as well. But yeah, especially if there are ideas you do agree with, or if you enjoy these videos, to encourage me, it'd be great. And also, yeah, if you're a Juventus fan, what are your dreams for the club, and what do you think the club should change, what do you think it does well and should continue to do. And if you're neutral, I'd love to hear what you think about Juventus or Italian football generally, as I often say, as I keep saying. But also, yeah, what are your dreams for the club? And I'm sure there's something else I'm going to say. But yeah, if I came up with an idea and that gave you an inspiration for another idea, or you can take that idea further, or use a different angle on that idea, I would love to read what you think, what your ideas are, and what your suggestions are for the club as well, and my channel itself as well, the content. Anyway, I'm probably waffling too much now, and all the best. Take care. Peace and love.